Hello and welcome. I'm Jeffrey Phillip, an interior designer and professional organizer. My job often involves getting into the deepest and sometimes dirtiest corners of a person's home, which is why I'm excited to be a part of this panel, dealing with dust and other allergens. Today, we will be examining how to keep a clean home, as well as what to look for when selecting products for those with dust and other key allergens around the home. To help discuss these important points, I'm joined by a distinguished panel of experts in the field. Dr. John Ryan, Chief Strategy Officer of Allergy Standards Limited, Lenny Chirino, President and CEO of Granite Gold and Guardsman Incorporated, and Glory Dolphin-Hames, CEO of IQ Air North America. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
The pleasure.
John, I thought I'd kick things off with you, as I think you can shine some light on the science of why dust bothers us. As a physician, can you explain why some people are more sensitive to dust than others, and what happens when you have an allergic reaction?
Sure, I'm happy to. So a substance that causes us to have an allergic reaction, we call that an allergen, okay? And many of these things are harmless to most people. And anything could be an allergen if your immune system has a specific type of adverse reaction to it. So there's two general factors. There's our own makeup. If our folks have allergies, we're probably more likely to have them too. But there's also the environments that we live in, the world around us. It plays a part. And you have a tendency, and because as you're exposed to particular allergens, you might develop an allergy to it. And the more intense the exposure is, the more often you come in contact with a particular allergen, and the earlier in life it happens, the more likely you'll be to be allergic. And environmental exposure to allergens increasing both externally through extreme weather and climate, and in indoor areas, things such as dust, particular chemicals, microbes, etc. And what happens in our bodies when we get exposed or have these types of reactions, we have to remember what our immune system is designed to do. It's designed to destroy things it perceives as being harmful to the body. And so if a person has an allergy to a particular substance and their immune system reacts to it, it'll try and destroy it. And there's lots of different things that happen within us to make that happen. But I suppose it can often make us feel very unwell, and it can often release chemicals into our system that triggers those kind of reactions that one has. So in this type of year, a lot of people might suffer from atopic rhinitis or hay fever. And so we have that kind of sensation of impact from being allergic to that particular allergen.
So if you have an allergy to dust, let's say, does it take a lot of dust to trigger that reaction?
Not necessarily, and it can depend on the type of dust and what it contains, and also on the size of the particles. So you've possibly heard the term PM 2.5. So PM stands for particulate matter or particulate pollution, if you consider it. And that's the term for a mixture of solid and liquid particles that's found in the air. So some particles such as dust or dirt or soot or smoke are large enough to be seen with the naked eye. And others are so small, they can only be detected using a microscope. So generally we think of things from an inhalation point of view of, say, beach sand. So that has a size of maybe sort of 10 micrometers, gets trapped in your nose, your upper kind of tract. And PM 2.5 that we may associate with more environmental pollution, or things like diesel particles, for example. They get maybe inhaled and affect our upper respiratory system. And the things then which we are even more worried about in ultrafines are PM1. So think mold or smoke or dust indeed penetrate deep into our lungs, and that can cause us a challenge. And particularly if you have a sensitivity, if you are one of those people who suffers from allergies or indeed suffer from a chronic allergic disease such as asthma, for example.
Wow. So it's pretty complex in terms of how your body responds to it. Well, Gloria, this brings me to you in terms of, so as an indoor air quality expert, can you explain the state of the air in most of our homes today? And is the quality truly worse than what's outside?
The air quality in most homes are somewhere in between 5 and up to 100 times worse than the outdoor air. And it's pretty surprising. This has a lot to do with how homes are constructed, the building materials that are used in homes, but also it has to do with what's taking place in homes. Stoves, for example, are a big source of pollution. heating sources, even fireplaces, play a major role.
Wow. Wow. That was a little more surprising than I expected.
Yeah.
What would you say are the biggest offenders in indoor air, and like what kind of mistakes are consumers making around the indoor air quality that in their homes?
Sometimes people want to have their homes smell better, so then they get started purchasing candles. And a lot of the times, these candles will actually contribute to poor air quality within the home. So sometimes people want to clean up their home. And a lot of the times, the methods that they use to clean their homes actually results in more dust, more aerosolized dust throughout the home. So these are real big factors that folks should be watching out for.
So a lot of the things that we're doing that we think are actually helping our home look better, smell better, are essentially polluting our environment for ourselves.
Many times.
Wow. Okay. Those are some mistakes that we need to correct. And Lenny, actually, while we're on the topic of mistakes, according to Guardsman research, what are the biggest issues consumers have with furniture care, and what are some of the biggest mistakes that they are making in terms of taking care of their furniture and upholstery?
Sure. And, being a third generation stone fabricator installer, people are like, what's he doing on this panel? About a year ago, we entered a strategic partnership with Guardsman. So I've been learning a lot about furniture and wood and dust and everything else that goes with it. And with furniture, especially wood, it's still fragile, and you still need to, use special products for it. You can't use ordinary household cleaners, just like with stone. Unfortunately, furniture is not as hard and dense as stone, so it needs even more special care. So a lot of people, don't realize just water does a lot of damage on wood. Heat, the direct sunlight, products that have UV protection actually help with that now. But a big part of it is dust. And on wood furniture especially, dust builds up, and if it's not regularly cleaned, it can actually scratch the surface as well. And that even goes to another big mistake is, some feather dusters are just kind of wiping across and pushing dust in the air. Excuse me. So that's always a big tip now is if you're going to clean it up, use a, cotton cloth and use a damp, it traps more of the dirt and the dust. So another great thing too is like we have a treated cloth that actually captures and holds it in. So product plug right there. But anyway, that really does help. That really does help in terms of dusting. So and even your countertops as well. It's the dust actually really makes a lot of difference there. And lastly, too, just thinking about even people just sitting on their sofa, when they plop down, dust pops up in the air from there as well. And a lot of times you don't see it, but they're breathing it.
Yeah. So now you're saying to use those cloths to improve your dusting, or perhaps doing like a damp dusting. But how often should someone be doing the dusting chore? Because it seems like no matter when we do it or how often we do it, we'll just wipe it away, and then it's like back 2 seconds later.
Sure. And talk about learning a lot of this stuff. So, I'm learning from, dusting from top to down, from top down. And even there's, when you vacuum, some vacuums just push the dust right back out. So some people say vacuum before, some say vacuum after. And even vertical surfaces, like drapes, when you open your drapes in the morning, the dust that's collected on there pushes out. So that lands on those furniture pieces. And there's, it's all about use, how often, you're using the house and how often you're in there. So, weekly is good. Some people are waiting once a month, but obviously more often you'll control the dust.
Yeah, so the more often you actually go through that cycle and trap the dust in some sort of filter or cloth or something to be able to keep the air clean and your space clean is helpful.
Absolutely.
Lenny touched on a really good point about damp dusting, and I think that probably would be great to emphasize that a little bit more, because people don't realize when they're doing what's called dry dusting, how they're oftentimes just spreading the dust around and aerosolizing the dust. So when you can damp dust, or when you can use just some of that cleaning fluid within your damp cloth, that makes a world of a difference in terms of keeping that dust down and not launching it into the air.
Another good point that you make, Glory, is with cleaning products that, especially with aerosols, they're just getting sprayed and putting a lot of chemicals up in the air. Sometimes it's actually better to spray the cloth
Exactly.
and then apply it versus, just, sorry, Italians talk with their
Exactly.
hands a lot. So
Yeah, but that it's real interesting that you say that, because that's exactly what I do as an air quality professional. I have these spray bottles, but rarely do I actually spray into the air, or rarely do I actually spray onto a surface, but rather I twist these, I untwist them, I put my cleaning products on my cloth, and that's been for me the best way that I can think of how I can not contribute to poor air quality in my home.
These
Yeah.
are really good tips. These are very quick, actionable takeaways that people can change in their regular cleaning routines to actually make a difference, which is great. And I think, to focus on that a little more of what people can actually do. Gloria, what would you say consumers, what should consumers be cleaning, and how often should they be cleaning these things to help mitigate those allergies? What are some of the most important areas for them to touch on?
I think all of their surfaces, basically, and quite honestly, there's a lot of surfaces within the home. So there is really a lot of work involved there. When we have soft surfaces, that tends to be harder to clean. Draperies, carpets. So we've got to also even evaluate what building materials we have. If you're an allergy sufferer, and I'm sure Dr. Ryan probably has a lot to say about that, but if you're an allergy sufferer, you might want to consider if you have carpets in the first place, just due to your ability to control the source of allergens, I believe. And maybe Dr. Ryan can say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think, look, prevention is always preferable. And so if you can, I suppose, understanding what are the things that might cause a difficulty. So understanding, is it the pet dander in your home? Or is it the general particulate matter? Is it a cleaning product? That can help. It's a little bit overwhelming. If we think about, spend so much time indoors in our own homes and our offices, and we worry, and particularly have the last couple of years, about the quality of air around us. So I think understanding and a little bit prevention. So trying to prevent kind of dust ingress in the first place. Then looking at kind of good mitigation strategies, for renovating our home to choose low emitting products perhaps, or indeed try to understand what's happening when we're thinking about maybe changing the color of the walls in our home and repainting, for example. And then if you do have, to try and control that using techniques, if you like, and or products that can actually contain dust, for example, rather than redistribute them, and then allowing you to actually safely dispose of that. And there are lots of different, I suppose, techniques one could use within that. But prevention, I guess, is always a preferable strategy than trying to maybe get a little bit overwhelmed and try to deal with this. And what we find is certainly people who have additional sensitivities are probably a little bit more heightened in their level of awareness. Because I suppose the impact for them can be a little bit more important in terms of the medical outcomes. But as a general rule, I think if we can kind of reduce the amount of dust and or particulates and or chemicals we bring into our homes in the first instance, it's a good starting place.
Now, some people might say that they don't even have a reaction. So does it really matter for them if they're not reacting to some window cleaner that they spray, or a candle or whatever, or the dust buildup? Like, some people are very averse to it, I feel like, compared to others. So is it still damaging to those people even though they're not having a bodily reaction to it?
Well, I think poor indoor air quality has such a huge health benefit. We may not see that having an immediate reaction, but certainly in the long term, I think, after things like heart disease, you could probably put indoor air quality and its impact on health and probably second on the list of things on a worldwide basis. And so, yes, I do think they are. I mean, you'll see this in maybe adult onset allergies where people maybe were young, didn't have any difficulties and maybe developed them over time. Because one of the things that causes our allergies to develop is that, exposure. And so, exposure to things over time can lead to health problems further down the line. So again, that preventative measure, I think, is always helpful. And even understanding, that certain products we bring into our homes does contribute negatively to the indoor air that we breathe. Some things we're not going to be able to avoid if we cook at home. We need to eat also as well. But understanding, having good extraction, having good airflow while we're doing that is important.
It's also a point I just wanted to quickly make. I'm sorry to cut anyone off there. With regards to wildfires, I know we've been experiencing a lot of wildfires, but one thing that was noted was the direct relationship between air quality and people even coming in to hospitals for heart problems as a result of wildfires. So although we may not necessarily see that direct relationship between breathing and impact of air quality, there are other organs that are affected as a result of air quality, and it goes beyond just our lungs. And that has to do with ultrafine particles and the impact that ultrafine particles can have on the human body.
That's so true. I mean, I guess you could, something that's common that you could relate it to for many people, and we've heard for so many years, is even secondhand smoke. And so you might not have a reaction to it when you're out in public or wherever you're experiencing it, but long term, that can obviously have a very vast impact, as we now scientifically know much more, obviously.
Good point.
And I think people that, like, I have allergies and like they don't know that they think it's normal, like that they can't breathe, they can't, and sometimes when you get those resolved, you're like, oh wow, I just feel different. I've had sinus surgeries and stuff like that, and seen doctors to try to figure it out, and it's such a difference. So a lot of people don't know that the dust is, these allergies are affecting them, and they just think that's normal, of how they are. And so by these tips and hopefully being more aware and education, you can feel better.
So Lenny, what would you say consumers should look for in furniture and dusting products when they're buying them? And how does Guardsman in particular make sure that its products are safe for consumers, especially those that have allergies?
Sure. And Guardsman, to give you a little background, they've been around since 1915. And when I tout as like, oh, I'm a third generation stone expert, these guys are furniture experts. And I learned so much from so many great people. So there's a lot that goes into their product development in making products that are safe, that work well. And even, their dusting cloth, they have the allergy certification that they've had since 2018, I want to say. So just having that seal on products where the consumers that do suffer from allergies know right away that this has been tested third party and it's safe for them. So a lot of that goes into it, and just knowing the product. So I'm not a big fan of companies that just add a, wood cleaner to their product line, or they add a stone cleaner to product line. When there's brands that are specialized in these, you feel comfortable knowing that it's safe, it's not going to harm it, and it's basically made for it.
That's great. Well, this is very interesting for everyone. I mean, I'm learning a lot as we go through this, and I'm sure everyone that's watching is learning a lot as well. And we're definitely dwindling down on time, unfortunately. So as we kind of wrap things up, it would be great to just go around to everyone, do just a little rapid fire in terms of just a final thought that you want to leave us with from each of you. So Dr. Ryan, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, I think certainly, look, if you are concerned about, or if you do suffer from respiratory allergies or indeed asthma, I think, making sure that the products you bring into their home have an independent, third party evaluation of their performance is important. I think separately from the medical side is understanding what are those areas that cause your sensitizations. Are they chemical in nature? Are they more dust related? And then that can help you in both, I suppose, operating your lifestyle, but also in the choices that you make in relation to those products. And I think there's nothing to fear. There's a lot of education available. A lot of the folks on this sort of seminar, if you like, have a lot of information. So reading and understanding and looking a little bit beyond maybe the claims of products is always really helpful also.
Excellent. Gloria, you want to go next?
Sure. I'd probably start out and just say that indoor air quality is very important in maintaining really not just the quality of your home, but probably the quality of your health overall. What you're exposed to as pollutants can highly impact your life, and it's important just to do what you can to reduce your exposure on a daily basis. And this can be done by selecting the right home, selecting the right cleaning products, selecting the right purifier, and also just by monitoring your local air quality. And these are pretty easy things that anyone can do, and just take the time to do the research, find the right systems or find the right products for you, and that will just go a very long way in terms of reducing your exposure to air pollutants.
That's great. And Lenny, last but not least.
That's good. It gave me a little a little time to think about my answer here. So I like going last. So I would say too, I'm a kind of a stickler on preventive, obviously. So, I always tout sealing your stone, and same thing goes with your furniture of protecting your, upholstery or your wood furniture with the products that protect it. Information is so readily available now. It's much different where you would get a piece of furniture and not really know what to do with it or how to take care of things. So there's information out there now, and it's important to get reliable information because there's also a lot of misinformation out there. So there are sites and sources, and going to the asthma and allergy page, and you can find products that are already certified, what to do. And same thing with whether it's furniture care, stone care, whatever the care, there is some good information out there. So I suggest you do a little research.
Great. This has been really very informative. I wish we had more time today because I want to keep learning more. I want to ask more questions, but unfortunately we are out of time. But it was fantastic to speak with you all, and thank you again for your time. So big thanks to Dr. John Ryan, Chief Strategy Officer of Allergy Standards Limited, Lenny Chirino, President and CEO of Granite Gold and Guardsman Incorporated, and Gloria Dolphin-James, CEO of IQ Air North America. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Jeffrey.